hello! Oh, it took a sweet time tonight, but YouTube's cooperating, or at least it's telling me it is. So hello, good grief, there's a lot going on in the chat. I doubt I'm going to be able to catch up with that, but I will catch up with it later, I promise. But hello to each and every one of you who is with us live. We are tonight looking at creating tutorials, something I do all day, every day. So let's get on with it. Right. Oh, even the slides are working. I mustn't get too excited. It's not good because it's all downhill from there. But hello, I'm Elaine. I have been using Affinity since 2014, which was when it was in beta, and the first app was released in 2015. So, version 2. What do we think? Let me know in the chat. Right, we're broadcasting in 1080p. That does not mean that YouTube is letting you watch it in 1080p. So if they're not, have a quick look at the cog in the lower right hand corner and make sure you have the red flash. And while you are there, there is a like button. So bear that in mind as we go through the session. You could also subscribe, and there is a notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on anything in the future. Right, Affinity works on Windows and Mac, and tonight there's no differences whatsoever, even in some of the extra apps that I'm going to mention. So what are we going to have a look at? Well, we're going to start with a traditional text-based tutorial. Oh, you are not seeing the slides apparently. Oh, that's not good, is it? Oh, right. Let's whip that back then. Okay, let's try that. Can you see it now? Excellent. Right, so we'll start with a traditional text-based tutorial. Those are what we used to write when Mike and I started training all those years ago. It was agonising. There was a lot of words. There weren't as many screen captures. These days, plenty of screen captures. So I'll then move on to working with screen captures, how you make screen captures, what size you should think about, and how you should think about organising them. Then we'll annotate some of those screen captures, and we will then look at multiple step tutorials and also step-by-step tutorials. At that point, if you know all you need to know about tutorials, feel free to leave. But we've got a bonus, which is Going Pro, which is something it's an app I've been using, or a kind of app I've been using for 16 years now. But it's not one app. It's been a whole litany of them because they keep dying on me. So we will have a look at what's out there at the moment and how it can integrate with Affinity Publisher. Right, now it's not moving. Now I've got the slides there, they're not moving. Right, we will have time for questions. To make it easier, if you could put a Q at the beginning of your question, that would be great. And if you can give us a little bit of context in terms of, what's the button on the left of that dialog box? Could you let us know what dialog box? That would be great. I'll probably stop as we go through and address some of the questions and then address the rest at the end in our dedicated Q&A, and it usually degenerates into a bit of a chat as well, doesn't it? So that's what we will be doing. But let's get on with creating tutorials in Affinity Publisher. Right, so, excellent. Now I must admit, I've done the cardinal sin. I have updated an app and Publisher crashed unceremoniously 2 minutes before I went live. So it's back, but I can't say for how long. Right, let's have a look. Oh, I am liking that name. Tech, Tinker and Train. That's a brilliant name. I'm loving that. Okay, so first type of tutorial, the traditional tutorial. So let's take a look at the finished product in a PDF. So in these days, you do get written tutorials like this. It did load in. But they tend to be what's termed lead magnets, which is somebody will offer it for free, but you have to sign up to a newsletter. So this one was fully created in Affinity Publisher. I've opened it in Acrobat and you can see it's brought through the headings as clickable links. So let's go through the pages. That's the first one. I have a table of contents there with something hanging off the end. And the rest of it is quite word heavy. There's lots of words in it, but there's also some pictures in it. And this started life in Word. But we're working straight from scratch and we'll be creating it from a text file. Nothing clever going on at all. So that's what we're aiming for. How do we do that? Right, I do have a finished version, but let's not do that. Let's start completely from scratch. So, a file and new. It is going to be A4 in terms of what's going on over here. I'm not going to need facing pages because this is going to be a PDF, and I don't want to force the user to have to scroll sideways looking across a spread. So while I'll stick with everything up there, I do prefer embedded, not linked. Pages wise, I think I need to start with 5. But we can deal with that, so we'll leave it set to the default 4. We won't have facing pages. It's going to be for digital distribution, so I'll go for RGB. Margin wise, it's going to be quite different. I'm not going to have even margins because I want space on the left hand side, so I can either put, well, really it's just for layout purposes, but it could be to make notes. You could even put a line and then put a heading at the top that says notes. But I'm just going to have a very wide left margin. And the right margin is going to be 20. And the top one is going to be 20. The bottom is going to be 25. We are going to put page numbers on it. Right. I've said this is for digital distribution, so therefore I shouldn't really need a bleed. But there's no harm in leaving it set just in case down the line somebody says, yes, we need to print that. So I'm going to leave that there and work to it if necessary. Right, and OK. So here we go. Here's my blank pages. Right, I'm going to go through and just make sure that you know what's going to be on each page. So this front one here is going to be the cover, which I will design. So there's our cover. This one is going to be, let's get into there, table of contents. That's not what I want. I want to copy what I just copied that you've just ignored. There we go. That's going to be our table of contents. We've then got in here, this is going to be the first page of content. So let's put in there content. Right. I've then got, after the content, a page with Mike's profile on it. So let's put that in. And this is not something that you would need to do. It's just me pointing out what I'm going to do and what's going where. I'm going to add one more page. So let's add that. So number of pages 1 after page 4. We haven't got a master page in here. I didn't enable a master page. I will do that manually shortly. And in here, this one is going to be the back cover. Okay, so that's the layout of the file. Let's start with the front cover. Okay. The original looked, it had a green box at the top and it had an image below it. So I'm going to put a placeholder in for the image, which was about here. Now, before I go any further, that's been taken up to the edge, but I don't at the moment have the bleed showing. So Control and W to toggle that on. 1, we can now see the margins, and 2, we can see that this, in case I do need it in the future, needs to be taken out into the bleed, like that. Now the image I've got is actually quite big, so I'm bringing it in from a folder in the Finder. There we go. I don't want to see all of that. It's a bit too busy. So I'm going to use the slider at the bottom to make it bigger, but I'm also going to use this to move it across. And I did want all of that. How big did I make the green bit at the top? Not that it matters. Let's add the green bit. So I want a green bit up there covering the top half of that. And I had that set to 216. Oh, that was good. And how far off am I with this one? 130, so not too far. Right, that was the green bit. So let's give myself a green there. Now, green is actually a bit awkward. There is a green it's hideous. That's not the green we want at all. So I'm going to type it in because Mike's going to tell me what it is. I know it's 0080 8037. There we go. That's Mike's green. So now we've got the green. I'm putting the green in place so I can manipulate this image to cover up the area that I want it to cover. So the green bit I've got lots of panels showing here, haven't I? Most of which I don't think I'm going to need tonight. But let's grab that and get rid of it. That gives us a bit more room. So in our layers here, this is the rectangle at the top. I'm going to lock that because I want to work with this down here. I think that is still a bit big, and now I realise it's going to need to go higher than that. It's going to need to go to at least up to that. So this still isn't big enough. So to make it a bit bigger and move it into place, I took the decision not to have the headings in it. It detracted too much from the rest of it. So that's about right, but now I've got space at the bottom, so it still needs to be bigger. Luckily, it's a high quality image and it will scale and not look too bad. Right, there we go. But those zeros on that side don't look quite right. So if I move that across a bit, it brings the pen in and it loses the zeros. So that is looking reasonable. Right, I need to put some text at the top. So just going to add an artistic text box there. And what did that say? I've got these in here. Let me show you. Can't even see the title because it's covered up with the corner. Brilliant. Brilliant. I'll open it again and let's have a look at it. Right, 5 reasons why, and I think that is indeed XLOOKUP beats VLOOKUP. So I'll copy it from my PDF. Let's see how well it likes that. And into there and paste it in. Yeah, not too much, I don't think. There is some text there. It's probably used the green, has it? Let's set it to white. Or has he put it behind it? Oh, just for fun, it's put it behind it as well. Right, so we've got the text. It's nowhere near the font that we want. But actually copying it from a PDF, it has kept the size. And I happen to know that the text size needed to be 61 and 40. Is it 61 and 40? Good grief, it is. Right, so the only thing that needs to happen with this is it needs to be put in place, and there looks reasonable. And the font that I used was quite a businessy font, which is Trajan. The other thing Trajan is used for is memorials. So let's grab all of that and make it Trajan. I do believe it's the font that's used at Ground Zero. Now, that one needs to be right aligned, and we have a cover. It's not positioned correctly now, but we have a cover. There we go. You could possibly make that bigger, but I like to think what that's going to look like when somebody's looking at it. I probably don't want it that big. So, Control and W, and let's have a look at it. Not that bad at all. Happy with that. So, we have a front cover. Right, the table of contents I can't create at this point, obviously, because I've got no content. I could put a text block in and leave it there, and I could actually go as far as inserting the table of contents and it would say there's no entries, but I might as well come back to it and do it properly. Which takes me down to the content page. So on here, let's get rid of the fact that that's content. I need somewhere to put the content. So I'm going to need a text frame. So frame text tool and draw that out. And it's ready for text. Now the text I actually have in a text file. That's Mike's profile, which is useful, isn't it? And that, which is about to open, is the actual text. It's surprising when you look at it that there's only a few lines. There's only 36 lines there because that last one's blank. And yet that is going to fill 2.5 pages. So, Command and A, Command and C. And as I say, I just happen to have it in a text file. You could import that. You could place it, but I might as well just copy and paste it. So I'm going in there and I'm pasting it. Now, there is more text than will fit in that block, and that's indicated with the triangle and the eyeball. The eyeball lets you see the overflow. So if the overflow was only one line, you might jiggle something to make it fit, but obviously it's a lot more than that. Right, so I need to format it, but I also need to make sure that I've got somewhere for this extra text to go. At the moment, I haven't actually got too much of it because it's not formatted. So we could format it first, or we could actually go and fill it. I think we should go and fill it. So because we haven't got any master pages yet, I'm going to move this down. And we, in essence, need extra pages after page 3 to fill this. But there is a shortcut to that. If you just hold the Shift key down and click on the triangle, it will add in as many pages as you need. You'll notice though it's put it at page 6, and we don't want it the other side of the profile on the back cover, but it's a simple matter of dragging it up. You get a blue line next to the profile, drop that, and now that has become page 4, so page 3 flows straight onto page 4. Then we can start work with it. So first thing we need to do before you start formatting anything at all, use styles. I have this as a completely new file, so I haven't set up anything in here in the way of styles, but you always have by default a range of styles. But my text is marked as no style, no style. The top one is the no style paragraph, and the lower one is the no style character. So it has neither paragraph styles nor character styles applied to it. The base style here is hiding a range of styles that are based on the base style. Now your display might not look like mine because I have this set to show the hierarchy and sort by type. So my paragraph styles will be at the top and the character styles will be at the bottom. This makes most sense to me because when I open the base style, I can see that the body style is based on base, the bullets are, the headings are, and the numbered styles are. Can even open up the body and see that all of these styles are based on body and body is based on base. Why does this matter? Because it means if I don't want this font, which I don't, and I'm never going to want that font, instead of editing all of these styles, I just edit the base style. So edit base, and in here, in character, there is the font and it's set to Arial. Now I usually have this set to Avenir. So I'll set that to Avenir. Look at that, no change whatsoever. What's going on? Well, if I go into the body style, which is the style I would want here, and I edit the body style, it says no change. It also says in style that it's based on the base style. So why didn't it change? As it should have done. Well, it didn't change because the body style is not applied to this yet. If we look back in here and we fold it up, remember, it's got no style and no style. But if we open up the base and we go in here and select the whole thing and just apply the body style, then the body style is applied not only to this page, but also the next page. Now, the reason that I applied the body style first is now I'm going to apply the exceptions. So at the very top here, I want this to have a heading style. Now we already have heading styles in here, heading 1. That isn't what I would look like heading 1 to look like, but it doesn't matter. I'll just whip through and I'll apply it. So that there, that's got a number next to it, is actually my first tip in here, and I want that to be a heading 2. So I'm looking through it now, looking for content. You'll also notice that we've got image 1, image 2. I found 3, obviously skipped past 2. So let's go and find 2. There it is. Now, if this had come in and it wasn't text, if it had come from Word or somewhere else, do remember that your find and replace will find formatting and replace it with styles for you. I can't do that here because there is nothing for the find and replace to actually find that makes that text different from any other text because it was brought in as just text. But there's my 4, and seeing as though it's 5 tips, it isn't going to take forever, is it, to find 4 and 5 and finish it off. There we go. So now I've got it styled up. There may well be in here something that I want to draw attention to. I think Mike did have one of these highlighted. I have no idea which one it is, so I'm just going to pick one. But here it says not found value as a parameter. So here we've got some code. What you could do with that is if you only wanted this bit highlighted in some kind of way. So you don't want the cell reference, which is F2. You just want the text that would be in that cell highlighted. Then what you can create is a character style that will change the look of this. So what I'm going to do down here, this is how you make a new style. You can create a paragraph style, or you can create a character style, and you've also got group styles. We looked at all of these when we looked at styles, so Mike will paste the link in for that, and if you're watching later, it is in the description below. So I'm going to create a character style here, and this one I need to be formula or cell contents. Cell contents is a good name for that. Now, if I want to change a lot of this, so if I want it to have a dedicated font and all kinds of things, then I could start from scratch. I think I just want it to have maybe a different colour and maybe be bold, in which case I may as well base this on the body style. So I'll base it on body, but I'll then go in and make some changes to it. So in here for the font weight, I want that to be bold. And I think I'll change the colour as well. So I'll go to the colour and make an exception to it. So I tend to have this red, so you can see it. It's now beginning to look a bit ridiculous, but you know, at least we can see it. Right, if I'd made that a paragraph style, what would have happened is this F2 would also have been formatted, and we don't want that. So now we've got our style created, we can go down here, and anywhere else that cell contents is mentioned, we can go and find it in here, cell contents, and you'll see it's got a different character at the beginning to tell you that it's a character style and not a paragraph style. And click on there and it will apply it. And you can do that anywhere that you may have contents. So Mike has in here, this one wouldn't matter if it was a paragraph or a character because it's the whole line, but the ones below certainly would. So you just highlight what you want formatted and cell contents, where have you disappeared to? And there. Right, so I've probably not got all of them, but it's enough. Principle's done. We now need to think about the images. So that's where image 1 is going to belong. You are going to be tempted to go and find the images and drag and drop them. I know you are. I have in here my step images in a folder. And we're going to look at taking these shortly, but there's my step images in a folder of their own. Remember back at the beginning, I did say to make them embedded. But if I drag and drop it, I'm going to give future me problems. So I might as well add a placeholder for that to go in. So I'm just going to draw out a placeholder that's give or take the right size. I will put that within the flow of this, and obviously it needs to fit in the column. Now, because I'm using a placeholder, I'm not at the point that I've dragged an image in and now I'm fiddling with it and heaven knows if it's going to look all right or not. It could well not look right. I'm in here scaling this box, and then the image will be placed inside the box, and then I can finesse it inside the box. But we've got a couple of issues, as we can see already. So this is hovering meaningfully over the text, and we don't want it to. We want the text to be forced to wrap around it. So you need to open your wrap dialog, your text wrap, and then choose the kind of jump you'd like, whether you want it jump, whether you want it square, whether you want it tight. In this case, jump or square would work. In fact, tight would work as well, because I want it to fill the whole thing. So I'll just say square, and that forces the text, when it meets this image, to jump and go down below. At that point, because it's in the right place, I can take hold of image 1, the text, and just delete it. Now, the gap that I've got with this image placeholder is determined by this distance from text option at the bottom. So it's set to 1.1. It actually looks fine at 1.1. I tend to take that up to 3 or 4, depending on the layout. Now, it's not arduous to do that, but we've got 5 of these. So instead of doing exactly the same thing 5 times, why not just copy this frame and paste it and move it down. That did not paste it. Why did you not paste it? You can do this. Come on. There we go. And down here it said image 2. So I'm moving this down. And where was image 2? There. But it looks like that would be best on the next page. Let's stick it on at the top of the next page. So let's take that from there and put it at the top of the next page. This is going to move, and you may need to play around with it in terms of, we've not styled the headings yet, but I'll put it at the top of the next page because we've not styled this and we haven't styled these. We've styled them, but we've not defined what we want the style to look like. So I'm very mindful that that is 2 there, but once I've got my gap sorted out, that could well move down. Right, so we've got a spare one on the second page to think about. Now is the time I can drag and drop the image into that placeholder. Now, it's come in, it looks okay, but it's not sized properly, or I may need to move it from the left to the right. So let's have a look what's over here. Nothing is on the right hand side. So I've got a couple of options. I could scoot it across from the left to the right, but I lose a little bit of text. The other option is to scale it. So if I scale that down a little bit and then move it back, then I do have the option to scale this fractionally. So it's just got the image that we want in it like that. Perfect. At that point, the image is great, but it's very close to the text underneath. So that was part of the wrap option, if you remember, and I said I did have it more than that usually. So if I join these together and take that up to 2, that looks much better. Also has the impact that 2 is moving down as well. Okay, so take that off screen. Right, the next one. Before I add an image to it, I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to look where image 3 is here. And when I paste it in, I want to move this down to just below image 3. Now, the problem with this is, once we start formatting it, these images are going to fly all over the place. And you definitely don't want that. So let me move that up. Just deleting that line of text, moved it slightly out of place. Right, this one needs to be underneath that first paragraph all the time. And that's what we use pinning for. So we'll pin this first one and then we'll go through and we'll pin the rest. So the pinning panel is available from View, Studio, Pinning, and it gives you these options here. So this image at the moment is what I want to pin. So I'm going to hit float. Now you might think, why aren't you hitting inline? Inline forces it to be inline, and it doesn't give you the option to kind of float it to the side or have it pulled into that margin on the left. So it impacts your ability to design your document. So I'm going to set that to float. And what has happened is it has put a pin at the end of that paragraph where it says the country. And it's saying wherever that is, make this image that far from it. So it's like a relative cell reference in Excel. If that paragraph moves, that image is going to move as well. So if I go into here and think, yeah, need a bit of space there, you can see that image is bumping down every time I press enter. And the converse, if I take those out, it moves up again. So that's what pinning is. And we just need to make sure that we pin all the rest in the right place. Right, so let's get down onto here. So this one, I haven't put image 2 in yet, but image 3, again, I'm going to copy that before we move any further because we have got image 4 down here. So let's put that one. Right, hang on. Okay, your mic's live.
It is, how can you make sure an image moves with the text when text is inserted or lines are removed? More specifically, when text flows to another page.
Well, it will move the image relative to where you have pinned it. So if that text moves onto the next page, then the image will automatically move with it. It's like having an absolute cell reference and, what's the other one? Relative cell reference. So what we've done with this one in here, let's get into there. If I just move into here, this is hooked up to the paragraph above it. So if I just keep doing that, it will move and it will end up on the next page. And it scoots past all of the others because they're not actually hooked up yet. So it will move between pages if that's what you need. So does that answer that question? Let me know in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that back to where it was. Right. Oh, good grief. I think I've just deleted some text. What have I done here? No, it's fine. It's going. It's getting there. Good grief. Right, so back as we were. We were in here and I was taking a copy of that, so I'm not trying to move one that's already hooked up. So this one then needs to be pinned to that paragraph, which is fine. It is. Where's this one going? Where's image 4? Has image 4 vanished? Oh, right down the bottom. Now we've also got in here the fact that that one is actually still on the previous page. So maybe this will explain it. If we lose that, we will want to hook this image up to the 200 jars would do it, it says. So let's put that there and pin that. Why are you not pinning? I'm hitting you. There we go. I'll put that up there, which is fractionally too low. But once all of these move into place, I don't concern myself with arranging that at this point, because once I change the styles and put more spacing in, it could well be that that's going to move anyway. So if you think at this stage, I'll just put an extra carriage return in, it'll fix it. Yes, it would, but it could generate other problems later down the line. So I leave that alone at this stage and carry on with it. But this one is page 2. So we've got 2, 3 and 4, I do believe. But if we actually click in here, we've got a problem. It's now overflowing again. That's because we've put images in the text, which means the space available for the text is a lot less, and therefore we've run out of space for it. But we can hold the Shift key down and click the triangle again, and it will kindly insert for us, just move that out the way, the rest of the text. And we know that the last line was red because we formatted it. So all I need to do again is bring that back up to here. And now we can carry on with it. So image 5 was on the last page. So I'm going to grab one of these. That one's not hooked up. Let's grab that and paste it in, but we need to move it down and we want it hooked up to that paragraph, and we can get rid of that placeholder, just telling us that it's there. So select the box, bring the pinning panel back. I've got all of these hovering on another screen, and hit float on that and it hooks it up to that paragraph. Right, I will then quickly just grab the images and put them in there. Again, they're going to need scaling and or moving depending on the contents of them. So I think with that one we could get away with having it as big as possible, but moving it so we can see the A column rather than this over here that was blank anyway. Right, let's finish these off. So we're looking for image 4 for this one. I think there's only Mike would notice if we got these in the right order, but let's do it correctly, shall we? So scaling that back a bit so we can fit it in there. Not bad, and then move it. This one was 3, I do believe. Now, these screenshots aren't all the same size. They might look like they are, but they're not. And when I'm taking screen caps, rather than just having an area of a screen like Excel and a few cells, mine are very, very different. So it isn't a case of getting this the right size and leaving it like that. It really does depend on the contents. And I think that one was number 2. Now that one's got more columns in it, so I am going to have to make it smaller. That should do. And just move it across a fraction. And then scale the box because your spacing is coming from the outside of it. So let's move that down a bit. It's twanging. Don't twang. Right, that one is not hooked up yet because the text is not there with it, but it will be shortly. Let's move that down there and do the last pin. So I'm hitting the float button and it's hooked it up there. Right, now that's not too bad, but I do want a couple of changes to how the styles actually look. So they are styled, they are already headings, but I'm right clicking and I'm going to edit the heading. And I would like the font of this to match the font on the cover. So I'm going to change this to Trajan and have a look what that's done to it. Not bad. I could actually make that a little bit bigger or smaller, depending if you want it on one line or whether you're happy to have it on two. I'll make it that little bit bigger so I get more elements on the page. And you should also see by doing that all of the images move as well. Right. Oh, I've hooked image 2 up incorrectly, but never mind. I've hooked it up. That'll do. Right. The next thing I want to do is heading 2, and I want to change those. So I'm going to edit heading 2. Again, I'll make that Trajan. Don't need it hugely big though. Just want something that looks reasonable. Looks that is actually wider, so I could make that smaller so it does actually fit, generally speaking, depending on the length of the header, on one line. Let's have a look. Not bad at all. Right, at that point we can create the table of contents. The table of contents depends on you having your text marked up correctly. So I can get rid of that. I need somewhere to put it, so I'm going to put a text frame in. I will actually type up there, contents, and that one, I could style that as a heading 2. And then press enter, and then I just need to insert a table of contents that I want to be automatically updated when my content updates. So I am going to text, I am going all the way down to table of contents and insert table of contents. And it will put that in, and it's picking them up from the styles, which is why we've got the heading there, which is our heading 1. But it looks ridiculous to have a heading 1. We only need the 5 points that are being made. That's open the table of contents panel. So if I take the tick out of heading 1, it takes the heading 1s away from the table of contents. But, question if you are with me live. If these 5 are heading 2s, which explains why they're in there, why is this not in there? Why didn't it automatically see that that was a heading 2 and put that in there as well, which we don't actually want? But this is something that can happen to you, where you look at it and think, oh, I didn't want that one in. There is an option, and the option by default is to do what it's doing now. What it's doing is it's picking up these 5 heading 2s from content below the table of contents. It's not picking up this one because it's before the table of contents. And how it decides that is this option in here. You've got stop at the next table of contents, but it's this second one, include entries before the table of contents, that you need to be ticking if you want it to be included. So if I put a tick in there, contents now appears on page 2, which is ridiculous. We don't want that right underneath contents. But if it appears, that's why it appears, and you can just toggle that off. So it's contents before the location of the table of contents. Right, we are motoring, aren't we? Right, little bit to finish off. So the profile in this bit, I'm just going to delete this. Now we know that that is where the profile is. So let's delete that. Oh, you are not being precise tonight. Come on, let's just go. Oh, what are you doing? Let's get rid of it. Right, that's better. Gone. We need another placeholder to put the text in. So another text frame there. This one was slightly different. I did the heading in a different way because I wanted it to fill it. So I did artistic text there and put in Mike Thomas. Where on earth have you disappeared to this time? You are lying to me. Right, click. Come on. Right, there it is. I do want that to be Mike's favourite font, Trajan Pro. So I'll make it Trajan Pro. We do want it to be that green colour. Let's make it a bit smaller, and we want it across there. So it just fills that bit at the top. We also have an image of Mike coming in. So let's put a placeholder for that. We need to wrap the text around that or it'll go clean through it. So I'm going to move this down, this box. I'm making it a little bit smaller. So I'm determining the distance from the heading at the top, and I will make that go at the top. So we need the profile text to go in there. And we already had that in here. Although it's swearing blind, we didn't. There it is. All right. So we just need to take that text. So again, you can see it's totally just plain text, and paste it in. As predicted, it is going right through that graphic because the graphic has no wrap on it. So let's put a wrap on there, which is square. We've got 2 millimeters at the moment. Let's make that 3 or 4. And OK to that. This has no styling at the moment. So all of this text, none of it is styled. So let's go into the text styles, and body style is probably going to be just fine for it. Did I really not turn off my notifications? Oh dear. Right. And then these down here just need to be bullet points. So let's select those 3, and we have bullet points that we can apply. And we've got a bullet 1, 2 or 3. The reason that it's important, the order of your styles, the fact that you have a base style and body style is based on it and bullets is also based on it, means that when you apply that, you don't lose the text, the font that you've got. Because whatever font is set at the base level will be applied to the bulleted list. We do, of course, need to add Mike to that. So let's get his headshot and pop that in there. Oh, that looks amazing. And I think that was it for that bit. The back cover is incredibly simple. We need to get rid of that. And it needs to be green. We're not particularly concerned about the layout on this one. It just needs to be green. So I'm going to fill this with that green. It picked that because it was the last colour that I'd used. And there it is. And there's a sign off because at the moment we've got the Excel trainer and LinkedIn, but we haven't actually got something that looks nice with it. So what we've got here, I have an assets collection for Mike. There's his headshot in a circle, so we could put that on the back if we wanted. That's another one. But we do have this name and tagline there. So I just drag that in, scale it to whatever would look best on this layout. So we don't want it that much in your face. Let's make it a bit smaller. And we're done. We have not only a fully fledged tutorial with paragraph styles, character styles, a table of contents. We've also got a cover, a back cover, and we've fitted the profile in. So that is more traditional in terms of its written content that has some graphics in it. But the modern way of distributing that is not as a manual with 500 pages. Do you remember writing those? Because I do. My favourite, note the sarcasm, was Microsoft Project. Oh, it was so big it was in a ring binder. Those were the days. But we don't tend to do that anymore. We tend to break content up. Also, you see a lot of this style of 5 reasons, 8 ways, all of that, because it's easier to consume. So that one is as old-fashioned as you would get, as it's a lot of text. There's a lot of text in there. And while there are graphics, they're not actually, you haven't got anything pointing to them or things like that. So like I say, that's the oldest style we'll do. We're going to move on to having a look at working with screen captures. But before I do that, have we got any relevant questions at this point?
Yeah.
Right, let me turn the mic on.
There's one question. From Kim, where do you find the pinning panel again?
All of your panels are available from View Studio. So all of these in here are the panels that are available to you. There are exceptions. You will remember the secret hidden panel that is your image placement panel. You can't just turn that on. You have to load stuff into... you have to go and say File Place and then choose multiple files, and then an extra panel will appear. But apart from those, all of the panels that you are able to toggle on and off are available from View Studio, and they are all in there. I think there's a couple of panels we've never actually looked at. Oh, we could do that in the future. But that's where they all are. One trick that makes it manageable, because what happens is, as stuff starts opening, I've now got pages, assets, stock, table of contents, table formats, and I've got table and table formats. And what starts to happen is there's that many panels that you can barely read which they all are. Also available from View is Studio Presets. And what that enables you to do is make a collection of panels that you would like available at a certain point, and just have those shown. So if you look at this table of contents one up here, in my Studio Presets, I've got one that's working with tables. And I don't want a load of other panels lying around at the same time, so I could just toggle that on. I'm not going to do that right now, because what will happen is it will bring back panels that we've got rid of. But what I am going to do is turn off those flaming notifications. Right, that's got rid of them. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is another question. I see the talk has page numbers, but I didn't see you putting page numbers on the actual pages.
Good catch, Frankie. Why did I miss that? I was going to do that. Right, I will go and do that, and we'll see it. Is there any more questions before I do that?
Nope.
Right, we will put them on there. I was intending to do that, totally forgot. Excellent catch. Right, because even in a document as short as this one, it's tricky. Right, the XLOOKUP can a value return blah blah blah. It says page 3, which indeed it is, because the cover's page 1 and that's a table of contents page. So that's page 3, but it should actually be page 1. So there's a couple of things we need to do. The first thing we need to do is have a master page, because we don't have one at the moment. So we'll make a master. We'll just leave it as master A. The margins it's going to take from what we had before, so that's going to be absolutely fine. All we're concerned about with our page here is that we've got somewhere to put a page number. So it lines up with the text, I'm going to put a text box down there. And then move into that text box and text, insert fields page number. And that will put the page number over here. I don't want it over there. But I don't have a page footer style or anything like that. So I'm going to make a paragraph style, which is going to be footer. I don't want it based on heading 2. I want it based on whatever font and other formats are in the body style. But in addition to that, and why are you saying Arial at the minute? I didn't make you Arial. Let's come out of that. I think it's picking Arial up from this. Right, let's start again. All right, it's going to be my footer style. I want it based on body. But to get rid of this Arial, I'm going to reset the formatting. And what that says is, right, it's body and no changes. But I do need a change. I need to change the size of the font. Nothing else about the font, but I do need it to be 7 points. I also need in this for it to be, when we go in here, aligned to the centre, because I want that in the middle of that block. So now I have a page number and it is just under there. Right, that will not automatically come through to here because this master didn't exist when these pages were created. So I will select all of the pages. So I've got the first one. Let's go through, make sure all of them have blue borders on them. There they are. Yep. And I'm going to right click and apply a master. And the master I'm going to apply is master A. And OK. But still not right. It looks OK. If we look at page 2 there, we do have our page number. But that's not page 2. That should really be Roman numeral number 1. So to sort that out, you need to go into Document Section Manager. Are you having a think about it? Excellent. And you need to create how many sections? Well, you're going to need a section for the cover. You're going to need another one for the table of contents, and then the rest of it will work. I've just realised I've applied that to 2 pages. We don't need it on. I'll deal with that in a minute. But in here, what I need to do is make sure that I've got 3 sections. And the 3 sections are, so I can literally just add these. I don't need to do them in a sequence. My first one says it starts on page 1 because it is page 1, and start the numbering at 1 and a numbering style. But this is the cover. So I'm just going to give that a name of cover, page 1 to 1. This is 2 to 2. That's actually right, but I want to restart the numbering and I want it to be Roman numerals. Section 3 is my content. I'll make sure that I know what that is by putting table of contents in it. And this one is the content. So I'll type in content so I know what it is. I want to restart again at number 1. And this time I want not Roman numerals or any of these other weird ones. I'm going to go for the default. Now, if I then close that, what we should see at this stage is, as I zoom into there, that is Roman numeral 1. And as I go into here, that is page 1. Right. Down here, this definitely doesn't need a page number, but you can't see it anyway because it's behind the green thing. This one probably doesn't need a page number either because the numbers really refer to where the content of the file is and not that one. So the easiest thing to do on that one is it doesn't really need a master page at all. So if I get both of these and the cover if you like, but we'll take it from there, clear the masters, and they've gone, and it's correct. So good shout there, Frankie. Right, I will save that. Oh, ridiculously hadn't saved it up to that point. Let's go. Oh, don't take forever. Right, let's just stick it in there. Okay, that's that one done. Let's move on to the next thing we need to think about. So I'll close that file, but I'm going back into the slides here. Right, it's the options for effective screen capture. So most tutorials these days, if they are computer-based, and even if they're not, to be honest, you might be including screen captures of some description. You need to take these screen captures in the correct way, in the correct format, at the correct size. But there's actually quite a bit more to it than that. So if you're on a Mac, Command-Shift and 4 is the fastest way to capture something. I will show you, I don't know if I can do it when PowerPoint's running. Oh, I can, look at that. Right, so I've just Command-Shift and forward, and then I draw around it. Simple as that. I can also, let's have a look at this. I've got a window here that's floating over all of the other windows. I can Command-Shift and 4, press the space bar, and it's taken a screenshot of that. So that's the fastest way to capture on a Mac. But if you want some kind of interaction with it, there's also Command-Shift and 5. Command-Shift and 5 does that for you. So I'm going to bring this in, make it smaller so you can see it. Right. You get to draw around it and change it and play around with it before you take the screenshot. Now, this only works on modern OSs, and I can't remember when it was brought in. Maybe Mike could find out. But it was a good 3-4 years ago at least. You've also got this option at the bottom, which does give you extra options. So this one captures the entire screen. This one captures a window. This one's the one we're using, which is capturing a portion of the screen. But you can even record the entire screen. So that will give you a video. Or you can record a portion of it. The options, and this is the only place you can access the options, is this will apply to Command-Shift and 4 captures as well as Command-Shift and 5. By default, puts them on the desktop. Mine don't stay there. Hazel moves them, but you can decide where you save to. You can also in here, and these are the fancy options, decide whether you have a countdown timer. So if you want to capture something, but you need to set the screen up first, you can have a 5-second or a 10-second delay. You can also show floating thumbnails. Now that's how iOS works. They fly in and then they sit there and then they fly out again. And you get an option to tap them to edit. I turned that off, drove me crackers. You can remember the last selection, which is this. And that's useful because if you want to save a series of captures and them all be the same size, which makes it easier when you get into Affinity Publisher, you can have it remember and then just capture, capture, capture. You can also choose whether you show the mouse pointer or not. Most of the time I don't want that, so you can see it's turned off. And then all you need to do is actually hit capture, and it's moved on, but never mind. Right, let me move back.
I think it was Mojave.
Mojave, excellent. Right, that was Command Shift and 5. On Windows, you have the print screen key. And you can get clever with the print screen key by adding, I think it's the Alt key, and it does different things. Obviously, I've not used Windows since 2006. So anything after that, I don't know. But there's also the snipping tool, isn't there? Or did they retire that? There was a snipping tool. I'm sure it's there if you want it. The next thing to think about, do you want JPEGs or PNGs? It depends. Most of the time, PNG is better because PNG, if an area of your image is solid colour, PNG gives you a better result. If it's a photograph, however, so if you're taking a screenshot of a photograph, it could well be that JPEG would be better because the PNG is going to be huge. I'm talking megabytes. So just something to think about. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're taking screen caps, make them PNGs. Do I rely on taking screen caps like that? No way. I have Snagit from TechSmith, which is about £55–60. Once you've got it, you can go on maintenance for £12 a year. So you get an update every year for £12. That, to me, it gives me extra options. I can edit screen captures. So I would use Snagit when I need to edit it. So if I'm taking a screenshot and it's got like personal information or something, but it's the only way that I can take the screenshot, then I'll use Snagit to make the screen capture and then I will edit it. I do have many, many ways to capture images, but the default one is one I use. I use that one when I want shadow. Snagit doesn't capture the shadow. Sometimes that's what I want. But a lot of the time, if I'm taking a dialog box, I want the shadow on it. Because if I don't have the shadow on it, I've got to add it. You know, why bother? Life's too short. Another option that I use is ScreenFloat. And that enables me to float a capture on the screen. I know it doesn't sound terribly exciting, does it? But trust me, it is. So let's see if I can do that in here. I've used the ScreenFloat shortcut key. I'm drawing around it. And that is what I get. So that's fantastic. When I'm inside Affinity, I've got a panel open and I need to refer to that panel while I'm writing my tutorial. But as soon as I click away from Affinity, the panel vanishes. So what that enables me to do is to take a screenshot of the panel and it sits there until I decide to close it. It's genius. That one is only available for Mac. There may be or maybe not something similar for Windows. And the last way that I use to take screen captures and organise them is Eagle. Eagle allows me to take a scrolling capture within a browser, and it's the best way to organise the captures because when you start creating tutorials, you'll have captures that got captured that actually you don't want to use, but they're captured now, so you'd have to go through and triage them. But at the point you're taking the capture, that's not the time to go and triage them. So you end up with a Finder folder full of stuff and you've no idea which is the one that you want to use. Eagle will catalogue them all as they go in, and then you can just look at them and decide, delete, delete, delete. You can even just mark them with a deleted tag and they'll disappear from the view, but you won't have deleted them in case you've done the wrong one. But whichever method you use to take these screen captures, don't be tempted to copy and paste. So this was a thing in Windows many years ago that the print screen key didn't save the thing. It put it on the clipboard and you could paste it into Word. And I know somebody sitting not a million miles away from me, Mike, who used to do that all the time. Until this version of Word came out, an errant version of Word, And every now and then, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, it deleted all the graphics in your file. It replaced them with a big red cross. Not even joking. And if you'd done that by copy and paste, you couldn't get them back. You had to go and take them again. There was no way. And it did it randomly. It was that bad. I wrote an entire solution which enabled me to import images and export images. But don't copy and paste them. Have them somewhere else in some other kind of system. Right, so now you've got your screen captures and they all look fabulous. Let's have a look at working with some screen captures. So, let me get into the right place in my data. And I have a file here. Oh, this one's going to be fun. Right, I've got a file, and what it's going to do is explain, or what I'm going to do with it, is that is a screenshot. You'll notice it's got shadow on it, so it was taken with the built-in system. That is the backup options within Scrivener. There's a lot of them, and I need to explain each bit. So all I'm going to do, I could write 17 pages on how to do that, but no one's going to read it. So I'm going to work with that and turn it into a step-by-step tutorial or an explainer type of tutorial. So I have a file that's got that in it, and I'm trying to open it as we speak. There we go. Missing resources, is there really? I'll go to the resource manager. What's happening there is that file is missing, but let's not worry about it because I've got another one. Let's replace it. So I'm going to hit replace. It's going to be in there. It's that file. Let's open it and it will just replace it. At this point, it's linked. I want it embedded. That's how things go missing. That's because I moved it. Right, so I'm going to start with that's what we're aiming for. It's still quite wordy, but it's wrapped around it and we've got some nice numbering. So how do we go about that? So I've got two of these down here, haven't I? I wanted to show you one thing, so I'm going to come down here. Right, it's very simple to create this. All you need to do is have a circle and make that a colour. So with a bit of luck, no, we're not lucky. We haven't got that bit of luck. So what I'm going to do is I am going to import, there we go, import a palette, and I'm going to import it as a document palette. There are reasons for this. Right, there's my global colours there. So that will bring that in. Why is my mouse playing up? Open that up. Right, so up here I have a document palette. Here are the colours, and I want that to be a red colour there. Then all I need to do is to put some text on it. So grab myself a text box, put a text box here, and put a number in it. And then put that in place. But as you look at it, that's obviously not formatted brilliantly for this. So just zooming in at it, it's wrong colour, etc. But what you could do is create some styles. So you'll notice here that I have a step style and a step number light style. Now obviously with a darker background, I can just apply my step number light. Make that the right size. I'm sure I had that all aligned properly and everything. Come on, what are you doing? Right, let's align it all. Get it in the right place. But there were issues with this. So that in essence is what we want. But that's the slow way of doing it. And who wants to do that all these number of times? Not me. So what I did was just what you saw me do. But this time, where did I put them? Was it tutorial? It was, right. I've got these here, and all I need to do is drag them on. They are editable, so if I decide that that's not actually step 2, it's step 3, then I can go into here and I can edit them. They are all editable. But that is a better way of doing it and a fantastic use for assets. Right, but here's an issue. This has given me hours of fun this week, this one. Right, which one were you? Let me have a look. You with that one. So I've got a half finished thing here. I've got no text in it, but my heading's up there. My image is there and my steps are there. I've actually missed a couple of steps here. So I wanted to put one on the backup folder. So I would go to my assets and I would grab these. I'm looking for number 10. No, I'm not. I'm looking for number 9 and put that next to that and then do an explanation about number 9. You can see that I've already got the text. The text is in here. So I can just grab all of this text just to show you that when you're making these things, unfortunately, you really do have to think 14 steps ahead of yourself. But if we go into here and we have a look at this one. Now let me have a look. That's right. I'm going to put the text in. So let's pop the text into there. You'll notice that it's over the top of the graphic. So I definitely need on my backup dialog box picture, this image here, I need to add some text wrap to it. Watch this carefully, and if you're with me live, tell me what on earth's going on. So I'm going to bring up my text wrap. In this case, I definitely don't want it to jump, because if I did, all of this text here would disappear. So square's going to be good enough. You can see I've got the drop shadow on it. So actually I've already got quite a bit of a gap. So I might not need as much of a gap in the distance from the text. We'll find out. But you look at this image and see what happens when I apply this. Now, let me first of all show you what should happen. So this one in here has got a text wrap on it, which I'm about to take off. So as you can see, not cheating here, there is a square text wrap on it. If I take it off, that's what you would expect. I turn it back on, that is what you would expect. Right. But this one here, keep your eye on the image, doing exactly the same thing and just saying square. Making sure I've picked up the graphic. There we go. Make it square. What's going on? Oh, what happened there? We've got our dots. Our dots are fine. It's deleted all of the numbers. Yeah, that's not great, is it? So looking at it over here, the numbers are still there. They're all still there. They're here. If I toggle off number 6, you can see it actually disappearing. So it is still there. What's it doing? Now this actually happened to me because what I'd done when I made my assets, I had pondered greatly whether the text should be in a text frame or whether the text should be artistic text. They look identical. You cannot tell the difference. So if I add a number 1 over here, come on you toddle. Right, let's zoom into these. Don't move. That's it. Zoom into there. Right, and grab another number 1 from in here, but this is an artistic text. They are identical. You cannot tell the difference. Renee is saying, should have grouped the assets in the image. That might have worked. It might have done, but it's going to give you a heck of a problem trying to update anything. So what has actually happened in here was you grabbed this image and said, when the text gets within 1 millimetre of the edge, push it back and don't let any of the text show. And where are those numbers coming from? They are in a text box. So if we look at this top one, which is the same as these, if we open it up, the text is in a text box. And you've just told the entire document that wherever this image is, push the text away from it. Don't show it. That is the issue. At that point, I was incredibly glad that I'd created the other ones, because this one up here is working perfectly. But when we look at a number in here and we open it up, it's artistic text. It's not a text frame. So that's the thing. So I don't have to group anything. The whole thing remains editable. I just have to know that when I'm creating these step-by-step tutorial type shapes, that it needs to be artistic text. why did I not delete from my assets the ones that were frame text? And that was because, given the week I've had with this, trying to work it out, there could well be another situation, an entirely different situation, where making the step numbers artistic text is problematic. So I have two of them sitting there, identical, so I can use them interchangeably depending on what I need. So that's just something to be aware of when you're making these things. But to make them, it was as simple as, let's make a 31. What's going on over here now? Right, this one is okay. So there's a 10. So let's add that over here. So I've got that one. I've gone up to 30, but if we say we want to go to 31, grab this, put the number in, and then click away. Go back to the assets. These are the artistic text ones. So I want to add it after 30. Make sure it's selected. From up here, add from selection. And once it's finished having a think about it, we go down and there's 31. It's still saying 10. That's not brilliant. It should be numbered 31. The reason it picked up 10 was that that's its name in here. So that should be 31 as well. So it's very simple to do. You just have to be very careful what are the circumstances you are intending to use these things in. Right, even that is nowhere near as good as it could be. What I've done with this is, throughout the text, I've referred to the numbers. So if we actually look at some of the text there, another reason to leave this option off is that you can set the backup on project close 3, where 3 is referring to the number 3 up here. But if you look at the entire page, while it's got a bit of colour and that's in the middle, do you want to read it? Do you want to read each one of those? And I would suggest there's a better way of doing it. There's a couple of ways that you could do it. One is you could jazz the text up in some kind of way by including the number. So let's say take that bit there that we're talking about number 3 here. And there is number 3. What you can do with this, so put that down, you can scale that and it will scale. So I could take that and instead here of having 3 actually written out, I could get rid of that and I could put this, place it exactly where I want to place it. So, come on, I'll swap tools to move that where I want it to be. So there probably. Then I would want to pin it. So I'm back to pinning it at this stage. So into my View Studio. And where's my pinning? Oh, it's open. Is it really? That'll be on another screen somewhere. There it is, hiding behind that. There we go. So there's my pinning. So I could choose that to be in line. It does move it up a fraction. Or I could float it and get to decide where it goes. And I would want to move the pin from the word above set to where that is. Wherever that is, that's where I want that. Which means if I were to decide I need to add some text above, I can still do that. Carry on typing, more text, and that will move with it. Now, if that were carried out through the whole thing, it would make it a little bit more readable, a little bit easier to work with. But we can do better than that. So let's get that back. And you see it moves back as well. So that's one thing you could do with it. Right, this was a broken one, wasn't it? Let's go on to another one that's almost done. Right, so what I could do with this is a similar kind of layout, but more granular, break it up easier. So I could opt to put the whole text in, or I could opt to take little bits of the text and then link it up with the numbers that are on there. So what I've done with this one is, as a self-contained demo, you can see that I don't have a number next to, I don't have anything past 7, and I should have 8, 9 and 10. So back to my assets, moving up, making sure I've got the right ones. Yes, the artistic text ones, lest everything end up very, very badly looking. There's 8, and I'm putting 8 over there. So this is how many backups I'm keeping. Then I need 9 that is referring to the backup locations. Got a session on this coming up eventually, you know. And 10, opening the backup folder. So pop that there. So that's what I would do in terms of putting the numbers on there. Right, to make it easier for people who need this tutorial, they may only be interested in the backup location and they do not want to wade through the rest of it because, you know, people have got no patience these days. I used to read books that were called whatever the product was. So, you know, Microsoft Excel, Bible. They had 800 and odd pages. I read the lot. But no, people have got no time these days. They want one paragraph that explains everything, preferably in 30 seconds or less. So we're going to explain the backup location, number 9, from here. So how do we do that in a way that's enticing to read? So what I've created in the assets in the tutorials, in fact, I didn't do it in the tutorials, did I? No, I didn't. Oh, I think I had it in a file. I'm lying to myself. I think I had it in a file. I did. I created some callouts and they're primary colours. They're enticing. They say, come and read me. But all they are is actually shapes. So I've literally just stuck them on a page, right? So I'm going to take these 3. What I would probably do with these is I would make assets of them. So up here in my assets, I would create a subcategory. So where's my subcategory? There. I would then, on the lower burger menu, go and rename it and call those callouts. Do I just click these and add them? No, because there's nowhere for me to put text. And I'm going to put text over the top of these. Right, so I need somewhere for the text. So let's pop the text in there. Yes, that's a text box. Right, and with this, I probably want to have some format with it that is nice and makes sense. So at the moment, that text doesn't have any formatting on it at all. Whatever I do with it in here, and this is a bit of an advanced styles thing, if I create a style and I base it on the base style, and then I add it to the assets, and then I use it in another file, that's when the styles magically multiply, and we don't want that. So what I would do over here is I would create a style group, and I would call the style group callouts. Then within that, I would create a new style, and it would be a paragraph style. I don't want it, hang on a minute, let me go in and have a look at this one, callouts. I'm editing the callout style. There's no changes, there's nothing to reset, okay, in this one. But I want the font here to be Avenir, my favourite, Avenir. Size-wise, I might want it fractionally smaller than the general text on the page, maybe 10, maybe 11. I'm editing the group style with those settings because irrespective of whether it's the text on yellow or blue or red, I want the same size and I want the same font. Might not be the same colour, but we'll work that out down the line. So this one, I create a paragraph style that I base on callouts. And it's got all of this in it. In fact, I'm going to reset that first and I'm going to then base it on callouts. So it's callouts and no changes. I don't really, I think, in here need any changes with this one. But it's not helpful if it's called style. So this one needs to be, you could say, a call out for the yellow box or the blue or the red. But if you then change the colour, so I tend to stick with light and dark. So call out text, this one's dark, okay. And then put some text in here and have a look at it. Text, text, text. That looks fine. I would probably take a little bit more time with it and make sure that the leading is right and all the rest of it, but principle is the principle. It's okay. Right, that text box could just be copied and pasted over here. That doesn't look great. I move it over there as well. That looks even worse. But the text seems to have disappeared. Let me check my layers. 2 of these are behind. That's not good. Let's make sure all the text is at the top. Right, this one would look better in white, and so would this one. So I need to go back to the text styles and down here make a new text style. This one is going to be light. I am not basing this on the dark one. That would be ridiculous. I'm going to base it on the callouts, so it's part of the group. Then in the font, nothing there needs changing. It's the same font at the same size, but a different colour. So go into there, make that white. So what it's saying is the callout style plus white. Okay. And that has applied. This one doesn't need another one. It just needs to have the light style applied to it. And we now have 3 callouts. Right, so if I put up there, we'll just put text. We don't need it to say it 3 times. Because what I would be doing with these is then adding them as assets. So no point adding them separately. So let's grab that and group, and grab the blue one and group, and the red one and group. Right, back in my layers. They don't have names at the moment. So let's call that call out yellow. And then we need a red, and unsurprisingly, a blue. And the only reason that I'm naming them like this is so that we know, when we've added them to the assets, what they actually are. We want them to appear down here in the callouts. So let's select one and add from selection. Select the next one and add from selection, and the last one and add from selection. Bearing in mind that that was a separate file. Remember, there was not much in that file. There was just 2 pages and it wasn't the file we were working with. This is the file that we're working with. Before we bring anything in, let's have a look at what's going on over here. We have some styles. We do not have callout styles, but we will have shortly. And so back in the assets, if I decide I'm going to have a call out there, I will put it like that. What happens straight away in the styles is the callout style is added and the text light is added. Why wasn't text dark added? Text dark wasn't added because we didn't add one with dark text. The yellow one had dark text. So that's why it's added this. But it has added the styles, which means that we're good to go. And what we now do is, instead of having all of this text, we grab the bit where we're talking about number 10, or was it 9? Where's 9? Here's 9 and 10. Right, so let's grab 9 and 10 there. Copy that text, move down to here, and people would much rather read that. There's a little bit too much text in there, but I can't remember if that was 9 or 10. Let's take 10 out of it. So we might need to make that a bit bigger. So first thing to do is to get into here, get the box, make the box bigger, and then you can make the text bigger. Where in here, that's my text box. You my text box? You are. But I want to select you so I can make you bigger and take away the bit about number 10. So that bit there where it says the open backup folder, blah, blah, let's get rid of that. So I'm cutting that, and then I can make that the size that I need to make it and make the background. So it's not taking away all of the manual work, but it is letting me do this in an easy way where I don't have to worry about multiple formatting. Then I go back and I add another asset. Oh, got all kinds of strange things going on here. I think I clicked something. Right, let's add another one of these down here for number 10. So I'm going to put that there. And in there, text-wise, get rid of those first, the end of text, because I missed the T. And then I put in my text for number 10. Now, that's all very well, but we don't have a number in the callout. We could do that, obviously, because in our step numbers in here, we could just find the right number and drag it on there. So either at the side of it, like that, or even over the top of it. You could put it over the top of it. So let's go get number 9 and put number 9 over the top of it like that. So it kind of sticks out like a little bubble at the side. You could even change the colour of that to be like yellow, so it's a contrast to it. But they'd still have to look at the number, and then it would be like colouring by numbers, wouldn't it? We don't want that. Let's make it easier still. Right, you may have seen this style of tutorial. It's quite popular these days. This is point 9, which is from this bit here. So it needs to map over to that. Now the 9 is at the left-hand side. So is the right-hand side the best place for this box? Probably not. So this is the kind of thing you need to think about. Although normally the stuff about number 9 would be on the right, when it's an explainer like this, maybe it's better on the left. It depends where the number is. Right, so now we've got those sort of rightish. Why are you picking up stuff? Right, need to get rid of number 10 because we're not doing it that way. We'll put 10 there. So we need now to create some kind of link between them that makes sense. The pen tool. I know you probably don't like the pen tool, but in this circumstance, the pen tool's great. I'm going to, from number 10 here, I'm going to click there. I'm holding the shift key down, which means I'm getting a straight line. I've clicked again. Holding the shift key down again, I'm moving down here and clicking once more. And then I'm pressing escape and going back and getting the move tool. Because what I've got at that stage, although it's very faint and totally the wrong colour, is I have this line at a right angle. And I can format that with a stroke. So as I make this bigger, oh, this is starting to look better, isn't it? Right. I can even with that, obviously we want it the right colour. So we'll go back and we'll sort the colour out of the stroke. So it's slowed to a crawl here. I have no idea why. Obviously I'm going to use global colours. That's not what I want to do. I want the border of that. So the stroke of that, and I want you to be that colour, like that. Another thing that you can do on the stroke is that you can add start points and end points. And one of the ones that works really well here is a solid circle. That is possibly a smidgen big, but we can deal with that like that. So you could make that a bit smaller, like that. Oh, I think there's something wrong with my mouse. It seems to be grabbing things. So you could do it like that, or you could do it where that half disappears behind it. So that bit is just a little bit behind it. You could bring that up so you can see where it's coming from. And that bit there, you could move that back. So again, you could see it. But that actually, I think, works better if it just went behind it and it didn't have one of these. The other thing you can do with this is the start and the end are at 100% at the moment. So I'm just going to move it completely so you can see what happens. They're linked at the moment, and if I wanted those to be smaller, I could just set them to 50, or I could make them much bigger. So if I wanted huge circles on the end, but not a thick line, because as I make the line thicker, the balls get thicker. Oh, what fun. But 100% usually works reasonably well in situations like this. But I don't want one on the start. So let's go up there and say none on the start. But I will have that finished one on the end. So moving this into place at this point, somewhere down there like that. And let's move it like that. Obviously, it then needs to be behind all of the numbers. So we need to see what's going on over here. And it's going behind number 10. So drag it to behind number 10, and now you have that like that. Although you probably want to change the shape of it, you could add that as an asset. Nothing to stop you doing that. So with it selected, you could go up here and add that. I know it says curve. We'll rename that to connection line. And, oh, if I could spell, I'd be dangerous, wouldn't I? Should we try that again so I don't look quite so stupid? Oh, dear. Right, connection line. And then you can just drag and drop those on. Now, this one here would need work, wouldn't it? Because you want to go from 9 across here. So I would have a range of these ready, or you could just draw them out as needed with the pen tool. Now we're not frightened of the pen tool. So click on there, hold the shift key down to about the middle of there. I'm going to move that down a bit. And that is me done with that. So I'm moving this down a little bit like that so you can see it. Obviously, it needs to be in the right place in terms of being behind things again. So we will put it behind number 9, and that will solve the problem. There you go. And of course, you can do that for each one. And that way, people can look at it and think, where's the backup location and what's the recommendation? And when you look at it, it says it's important because that is where you will need to go looking for your files when they crash and burn. So I personally use a cloud location, and that's what it's saying. It gives you the best strategy because you will always have all of your Scrivener files backed up automatically to the cloud. And it tells you that in 2 paragraphs rather than reading the entire thing. Yes, you could flip it. You could do all kinds of things with it. So I create about 3 or 4 of them. Most of mine have right angles, but obviously you wouldn't need to. It depends. If this number 1 here, this is talking about turning on automatic backups full stop. You can actually turn them off. Who would do that? But because of the number here, you might decide to put one at the top, and therefore you would need quite a long line. So you might decide to put it here and just 1 line up, however you want to work. And in terms of having the different colours, you know, if the backup one's really important, that's really important, or you have a particular colour, then it's simple enough to drag one of these on. And then you could choose to make the link colour different, the line. So you could have the line, but make it yellow. You could even mix and match. I would say don't go crackers. But the fact that they are very bright colours that I look at them and I think, oh, primary school, you know, preschool. They're bright and they're engaging and they make you want to read it. So that one, I'm looking in here just to make sure, just to prove the point, that you have call-outs, and now we've got the dark applied because we added this one. So we already had the light text style, but the dark one was added automatically when we dragged and dropped that from the assets, which is important. But it also indicates that it's important the way that you create the styles and how you group them. Because if you don't group them correctly, your styles multiply. You'll notice that in here, I still only have 1 base style and 1 body style. But it's not unusual to see body 2, 3, 4, 5 because of the way that they were added automatically, rather than how you would like them added. Right, any questions on that?
There's a couple of questions.
Away you go.
Renee said, can you show the screen capture option in Eagle app?
Mm-hmm.
And Frankie said, when I made some assets the other week, I couldn't get them to look like Elaine's. They didn't have the text description. How do I do that? Oh,
that's just a view option in here. Show as list. The default is not to show as list, it's to show like that, which is not helpful to man the beast, is it? That's fine if it's numbers like that, because to be honest, you wouldn't want those listed. You're wasting space. But most of the time you want to have something shown next to them, so I always tend to have that shown as a list. So that's why it looks like that. One of the other things that I'd got in here that I didn't particularly show you was that instead of just adding boxes, I'd actually created a post-it note as well. So I can go in and I can edit the post-it note, but I can even make that bigger, etc. So we'll probably look at that when we look at creating assets, but you can do all kinds of things. It's even got a bent corner. Look at it, it's amazing. Right, any other questions?
No.
Okay, let's get out of there then. Something's definitely disappearing. Right, so I've got that one. Did I have anything in there? I did. I had this one, which is just a variation on a theme, but just to show you how it works. What I've done here, purely to save time, it's got a text frame. It's 50, it's 10, 10, and 15 on the margins. with a guide down here, and the guide is at the 25mm mark. In other words, it's marking the halfway point between the left and the right of this white gap here. Right, I think we've got a follow-up on that. When I have the assets created as a default, am I to change to list format? How it looks when you create them does not impact later. So I created those with it set to list, but if I want to change that back to thumbnails later, it will just hide the text. And if you created it with no text shown, you will see some text when you turn it to list mode, but you may need to rename the assets, because if they weren't named in the layers panel when you added them, then it will just bring across whatever was in there. So it might just say group, group, group. So you might need to go in and rename it to make it sensible. Right, so this one is a variation on the last one, but this one is where you've got something like, maybe like Mike's 5 points on VLOOKUP and an XLOOKUP. I actually have hidden in here somewhere. Has it disappeared? Let's have a look. I'd got a little text frame. There is my little text frame. Right, let's say that I want in here to mark off, say, 4 or 5 points that are being made. And I want it really obvious. So it's a written piece. Yes, there would be some kind of images in there, but I really want it, you know, point 1, point 2. Maybe it's like a workbook or something like that. So what I've got here is just a text frame. Now, before you try backfilling and all kinds of things with a text frame, you need to go to View, you need to go to Studio, and you need to bring up your text frame panel, which isn't open by default, I don't think, which is ridiculous. But this is where you can format a text frame. So in the fill of this one, I would probably want something greenish, but not hideously green. I'd want it probably to be darker than the greens over here, so like that. So now my text frame has a fill on it. I definitely don't want it Arial. I want something quite bold, so maybe I want Arial black. So I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to put, you know, point 1. Thus. I've got it centered vertically, horizontally rather. Need it centered vertically so it's in the middle of the box. In here, I need to make it bigger. Now, again, don't make it too big because you might need double or triple figures. So that's not too bad. And I would then want that to be white. So let's make it white. Okay. Exactly the same as the circles, you want this to move with the text. But it's not going to be in the text. It's going to be related to the text, but not in the text. So where did I talk? Let's just say that's point 1. Somewhere in here there must be a number 2. 3's mentioned, I see, but not 2. So I'll put that there and we'll say that that is 2. I did not want to move you. I wanted to make a copy of you, and there is number 3. Right, so what we're looking at there, I am having to number these manually, obviously. But this is just if it's like, I'm sure you've seen this style in workbooks and manuals, etc. I just need to marry these up with the relevant place in here. So with it selected, you need your pinning panel back again. And I'm going to float it. Now, it's hooked itself up to number 2. Which is not good. I want it to hook itself up in here. So I want that at the top. So I've hooked this up now with Scrivener, which is the first word. It's got an offset, which is the distance it is from the edge of the text, of 18. And the offset vertically is 0.5. So what I'm doing is having a look in there. Does that look like it's lined up? Possibly, possibly not. So let's try it with 0. And that just pulls it up so it is perfectly aligned. You need to make a note of those numbers. That's what you want, all of them. So move that slightly, go down to here, grab the box, hit the float option. This time it's hooked it up with number 1. It's crazy this. So I hook it up with that paragraph that I want it linked to, and you can see the 18's okay, but that needs to be set to 0 to match the other one. And then the last one that I'm going to do is this one here, and I want that lined up with that. So what are you going to hook that one up to? Oh, lovely. Let's just drag it down there and make sure. Set that to 0. And we have done it. So let's move that out of the way. Have a look at the full page. And if, for whatever silly reason, I wanted to go and put more in or insert anything, as I move that down, and I'll just do Control and W so you can see it happening, and come into here, the numbers magically float down with it, but they are attached to it in a relative position. So the other ones were like on a graphic, but these are just floating in a space. That's another reason that you might want on the left-hand side to have a big gap so you can put that in it, as well as making notes. You know, making big numbers like that works brilliantly for a workbook. Okay, do we have any questions?
No.
Right, I will move straight on to the next one then, which we saw a sneak peek of, but you didn't actually see it. I have no idea which one of these is the right ones now, despite the fact it's a starting point. So let me save that. We'll leave those. Did I make it? I did. I think I did make changes to those. We'll do that as well then. And what was this one? I'll do a save as on that one, because I did make a lot of changes. Right. Tag a number on it. Okay. And get rid of that, because things are starting to crawl. Right. Let's open up one of these. I've got a complete one. So let's look at a complete one. Complete in terms of layout. We saw this in the magazine session. And what I'd done was I had created, let's Control and W that, I'd created a place for text on the left-hand side and a grid on the right-hand side. And the grid has 9 spots in it for 9 steps of a tutorial, or in this case, 9 essential utilities for Mac. I've only put like step text in it, but what I'm going to show you is how to create that so you can be flexible with the number of steps and also the placement of it, but how you can get something that it can be predictably placed like that. So that is one that's complete. This one is complete, but that's what we're aiming for tonight. I'm not putting anything in it per se. I'm showing you how to make the layout itself. So how did I go about that? There's many ways that you could do this. Many ways. But I opted for this way because this is the most flexible way I can think of doing it. Your starting point is that you need to know the size of the page, because you're going to need to have a margin on the left and right, if you want them equal, that allows you to have a predictable gutter between them here and here, but that is equal. So what I needed to do was sit down and do the maths. So I know that the page is 210 millimeters wide and 297 millimeters tall. So I worked on that and then took the margins away. So let's have a look in here what the margins actually were. And they're not usual. I was aiming for 10. But I needed 2 more millimeters, otherwise things would be 0 point whatever. So to make these all solid numbers, those were the margins that I set on an A4 page. So your mileage may vary depending on the page size that you're working with. I had 10 at the top because I could, and instead of 15 at the bottom, I put 14 because I needed 1 more millimeter again. So millimeters are quite handy to work with. I know in the States, I think you use inches, don't you? Which is going to make it tricky. We're not used inches here for a while, unless you're saying how tall you are. And then I have no idea in centimetres and millimetres. We're very strange in the UK. But millimetres are so tiny that you can just grab back 1 millimetre or 2 millimetres and you're not reduced to 8.0, 0.6 point whatever. So those are the margins that I used. So let's go on to a clean page and have a look at that. Right, so it ended up like that. But instead, because you might be looking at this and thinking, well, there's an image and there's some text and there's a number and then there's more text. So we've got heading text, normal text, a number and this. So all we need to do is create one and then duplicate it. Sort of. But to make this a whole lot easier to work with so I didn't have things flying around the page, this is a table. It is a 3x3 table that is beautifully set up so things don't fly around. This is an image placeholder. So that bit there's an image placeholder, as obviously are these, with rounded corners. This has a text style applied to it of a step title. So we have a whole range of styles here. And this number is pinned. All of these are pinned as well. Pinning's your friend. So that's what we're trying to replicate. So first of all, we're going to need a table in here. So I will build it on this page over here. Right. Now with a table, it really doesn't matter. Just draw the thing out. I know that's far too many and so do you, but ballpark, it's the right height. You can click on here and it will show you how many, in this case, rows you've got. And I could then click in there and type 3 and press enter. When I stretch this down, it stretches the 3. It doesn't add extra rows in. It stretches the 3 I've got. But in addition to clicking and typing and entering and all the rest of it, if you click and hold, you can just drag back. And now I've got 3 that way. So that's much quicker. And scale it out that way. Now, the vertical columns that we've got should be the right width. The right width being 64. So I'm now going in here to look at my table and that's telling me it's 64. So I've got my table panel. Again, if you don't have that panel, you will find it in View, Studio, Table Panel. So I need to see that to make sure that these are sized totally correctly. So, yes, the widths are correct. Each one is 64. So you can see if I took away 2mm for the margins, they wouldn't be 64, they'd be 63 point something. And I don't want that. I want it's easier for me to lose a millimetre off the margin than it is fiddle around with columns that aren't round numbers. So 64 for those. Now these need to be different sizes. This one needs to have the image in it. And the height of that was 53. So with this panel open and the entire row selected, if I go into the height and put 53, that will size that one properly. I then click on 2, row number 2. That one only had the heading in. It was only 10mm. And then this one down here was 29. Now you might be thinking, oh, come on, why 29? Why not 23? Why not 30? Well, the same issue that we've got with the margins left and right, we have with the top and the bottom. I need to fill in 3 of these. I need 3 of them to be able to fit on a page. So it's all measured to within an inch of its life. So it's 29mm that way. If I now just grab that and put a fill on the table so we can see it. Don't really care, hang on, wrong one. Don't really care what colour it is, it's going to go. But if I do that, we should be able to see that if I duplicate these, come on, right, that 3 of them, I think it's time for this mouse to retire. Right, 3 of them should fit beautifully. There you go, they all snap together. So that's when, see, it keeps picking it up. That's why you get the first one correct. So as I say, I'm not bothered about any kind of fill on these at the moment. Just wanted to prove the point that the measurements were taken so it fitted on the page. What does that leave us to do? Well, we need to get into these cells a picture holder in here. Now, if I do this, they would have square corners. I am leaving a gap because there is no gutter between these columns. But I didn't do that. I wanted them to have rounded corners. There isn't a rounded corner option in there, I don't believe. I think you can change it. Corners in here. There we go. You can do it where it rounds them all. You can even take that away, and if you want one of these to be different, you've now got 4 options. So you could change that to have none, and you get that kind of shape. So whatever you want to do with it, that is how you do it. Now I want a single radius, but I don't want it quite as much as that, which is 25%. So possibly 20, maybe even less than that. Should try 15. 15 looks about right. I can't actually remember exactly what I did in terms of the size of that. But luckily I can refer back because I've got the one on page 1, which is there. What size did I make that? Oh, 10% rounding, good grief. 10% and 50 and 60. So it was a width of 60 and a height of 50. So let's go back to our page here. We had that set to 10 and a width of 60 and 50, we said. So 60 and 50. And then put that in the centre. Now, at the moment, it's trying to twang, and I'm not happy with it twanging. But could it be that I could select something? I'm contemplating selecting the entire row and doing it that way, which is it's aligned to the top. If I centre align it, would that do me any good? Oh, it doesn't look like it would, so I'm going to have to manually place this. Right, so let's get that just about right. There we go. With that selected, I can go in there and pop it in there. Go in there and pop it in there. I do think here it's just done 2. My problem with that first one could be it's not actually inside it. So I'm double clicking to get inside the cell and then pasting it in, and then that is inside the cell, which means when we move it, it moves with it, which is exactly what we want. Then I need some text in here, which is the step title. So step title. I have a style for it over here already, a step title. So that's fine. This needs aligning to the centre though, so the whole thing here needs to be aligned vertically. And you may remember that you want a number as well. So if we look back to the number itself in there is artistic text and it's floating. It also has a colour in here of step number. So let's head off and have a look at that. 26 and it's Arial. That's unusual for me. Right, so we've got our text in there. We'll worry about that in a moment. What we now need is some artistic text. So I can draw this outside here. Did I say 20 or 26? I can't remember. That looks mighty big. Let's say 20. It's my step number, so it's always going to be number 1. We do not want it to be that colour, but we do have a style in there that'll make it the right size and shape, etc. So I can take that, move inside there and paste that in. Now at this point we've got issues with this being pushed around that we don't particularly need. I wonder why I didn't fix that with in the style. I have no idea why I didn't do that. Let's have a look. Let's change it to something really silly and then back again. Nope. What is giving with that? Should be right, isn't right. Let's have a look at this. I need that to be attached. What did I have it attached to? Come on. What did I attach you to? I attached you to the image, didn't I? We don't actually ever want this moving, but just to make sure that it doesn't ever move, I can select it. You know what's coming next, don't you? Pinning. Pinning. 1 to select it. Let's bring the pinning panel back. Where's that disappeared to? There's the pinning panel and float it up there, which solves our problem. But I actually want it attached to there. So I always want it in relation to that. This bit down here, I actually am going to need that bringing in from over here. So I'm not quite sure why that wasn't taken care of in the step title with an indent. So let's go to the step title. And in our spacing and positionings on our left indent, so let's make sure we can see it. What if we brought that? That's what I should have done, isn't it? There we go, 5mm. And this one might need bringing in if it's a little bit too close to the edge, but we've now got the space to do that and line it up perfectly with what's above it. Right, with that done, let's grab the pin out of the way and let's take another look at the whole thing. We've basically got virtually everything we need. I'm going to put some text, test text in there. Test text. Oh dear, I really have lost the ability to type. Right, or just placeholder text. So whatever you want to put in there. Right. I need that formatted with the step text, which makes it the right size. You can put more in if you want, but you don't need to. And you are good then to copy this. So I should be able to take this text and put that in there, that in there. Our step title there, I will copy it. I will place it in there. It will take care of the gap that it needs. I will then go back and take that, move into here and paste. Obviously, I don't want it where it's actually put it, but this can be moved. So I need my move tool, grab that, move it where it needs to be, take this up and link it there. And I know it's correct when that is in a straight line with it. But you manually need to change it to 2, which means it may need more breathing room. I am not concerned about breathing room right now, though. And the last thing to do over there is to put in the last one and do exactly the same with it. So let's grab that. Move that. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't want to move the whole thing. Right. Put that. Come on. Perfect. Up there. Line it up and make it number 3. Where did that go? There we go. Number 3. And move that in fractionally. That is not right. There we go. I think I would have that slightly off and possibly put more of a space on there, because once you get onto the 2s and the 3s, you may need the space. But the principle is there. Right, extra things to think about with this. You need to make sure people know that these are to put images in. So I'm grabbing the lot of them. And all I need to do is apply some colour to it. So just change the background colour on there. So let's go and find something not quite offensive that lets you know that needs images. Just dark enough, I think. There we go. And then all you need to do is duplicate it as required. So that gives you 3 steps. You might be thinking, well, why didn't you do 9? Because sometimes you only need 3 steps, and it's easier to just grab hold of this. Not individually. Come on. Grab the table and duplicate the table. And that will give you 3 more steps. And because we've sized this perfectly, come on, in the centre, we can get 9 by, again, just duplicating it again. But doing what I'm doing now, because my mouse is acting up something chronic today, rather than just do that, once you've got it set, like you've got the top table set, that is a thing to add back to here. So I'd create a new subcategory. There we go. And I would add from selection. So add from selection. And obviously the title, not good, but I would rename that as 3 steps. Like the 12-step program, but shorter. And then when I want to come and use it, I can go into here and I can just drag that on there and then fill it as required. And that is what it looks like when it's all done properly. And the text is there, etc. And obviously I moved that in a lot more. But that is the principle of how you would create those. When it's finished, you get something that then looks like that. And it was really fast. All I needed to do was drag, drop, drag, drop, drag, drop. I put the titles, and the thing left for me to do is to put the information underneath, which is literally, 6 lines of why drop zone is essential, because it powers the black hole. Don't even need 6 lines for that. And that is that tutorial. Any questions at that point?
No.
There's a lot of chat though. I can see it flying past. Right. If you are happy at that point, then please feel free to leave. But I do have a bonus. So let me move on to my bonus, which is this. When you make as many tutorials as I do, you don't want to fiddle around to any degree whatsoever. So many years ago, I had a dedicated app. It was fabulous. Screen Steps. It was wonderful. As the name implies, it enabled you to make step-by-step tutorials. But as happens in software land, what you could do was you could take an image, make some numbered steps on it, and write something about them. But as with all these apps, it didn't end well. It didn't totally die, but it did turn into a very expensive business-focused subscription service. And I do mean expensive. It is fabulous. If you're in a business situation, I would recommend it. It's amazing. But it is about, I think it starts around £80 a month. So it's not cheap. The same company did then come up with Clarify, which did almost the same thing. You took images, you added numbers and annotations, and your text, and you got a step-by-step guide. Yeah, that didn't end well either. If you've already bought it, you can still download and use it. But at some point when Apple make a change, or Windows make a change, it's gone. The company have said several years ago it's end of life. So I was looking for something else. I found step-shot guides. Oh, I put shot guides. Step-shot guides. Step-shot guides, exactly the same thing. You could take images, you could annotate them. It was marvellous. You know what's happening, don't you? It died. Oh, this is not good. But there is good news on this front. There is a new kid in town. In fact, it's been around now quite a while. And it has almost all the features you could possibly want if you want to make step-by-step tutorials. Again, it has the option to take screen captures, the option to annotate them with numbers, and also a range of other tools. It's called Folge. A brand new version dropped last night. So this one is still in active development, thankfully. Folge is German for follow. If my pronunciation is not perfect, understand languages, not my superpower. Affinity Publisher my superpower, but not languages. So this one is still active. I use this and I make it work with Affinity Publisher. So I can use the pair of them. Now you might think, well, why would you use two? Well, Folge will take me so far and it will make it easy for me to take screen captures, annotate them up, write the text for it, and then produce it. So I will show you how it does that. What I then do is take that output, which is 95% of the way there to start with, but I can take it into Affinity Publisher and polish it in there. And that way you've got the best of both worlds. So let's go have a look at that. Right, let's get rid of that one. And go get Folge. It's having a think about it. Here we go. Right, so what it does is it opens up this. You don't have local files with it. They're all in the cloud. So my guides, the guides that I have created are in the cloud. It will show them to me in here. So let's bring that in. So I've got my audio hijack settings for Skype. I've got my rolling edits in Camtasia, which I have got a file of that I've created. These are what I've written. The rest I have archived off, but these are what I've been working with. So somebody specifically asked me about the difference between linked and embedded images in Affinity Publisher. So I created a very quick guide in here to do it. So when I say a quick guide in here, I literally just opened Affinity Publisher, strutted my stuff through it so you can see what I did. I added some images to 4 pages and I showed them that Document Resource Manager, put a 1 next to it, and then that would give you this, and then I highlighted that and put some numbers, and the text is over here. So this is the image, and if I click this image, then I can edit that with all of these tools. Over here is the step properties, the status, which means it's complete, the title of it, and then the description. So all of this here is the text that I've been copying and pasting and shuffling around, right, in Affinity Publisher. But sometimes it's easier when it's just a paragraph of text to have it in somewhere like this. So each of these is a separate step with a separate image and a separate description over there. What I need to do with it is then export it. So I have extensive export options. I could make a PDF. I could make a PowerPoint file, can even send the text out as rich text. So with it being rich HTML, I can take that out and the images will be with it. I've got markdown options, JSON, HTML or a Word file. So I'm going for a PDF file with this one. So the new part of this, literally I haven't even created one of these yet, is they've added templates. So you can have multiple output settings saved, which is fabulous. I want to play with it. So in your document, what do you want to happen? Do you want to keep the steps together? Do you want to fit as much on a page? You get to decide the layout. So I'm going to keep them separate. I don't particularly want a table of contents because probably my table of contents I'm going to do in Affinity Publisher, particularly if I'm exporting this as one part of something. So this might generate for me 8 pages, but it's going in a document with another 40 pages. So I don't really want it to have its own table of contents. I do want this to be portrait because it's going to go into a portrait document. I don't want a cover page because again, that's coming from Affinity Publisher. Do I want the steps numbered? I will say yes to that. I then get to decide whether the description, which is the text on the right here, goes before the image or after the image. And it makes more sense to me to be talking about what I'm going to do before they see it. So I'm going to say before the image. Then you've got the step images. How do you want them displayed? Well, I want them center. I want them PNG for the highest quality. I'm not worried about a border. If I want to put a border on it, I can do that in Affinity. But I do want them at 100% of the size. Then I've got the design. Do I want a header or do I want a footer? Now, normally, if I'm producing it from here and just emailing it to somebody, I'd say yes. And I'd say I want page numbers and I want a guide title. And maybe I want a logo. But if this is going to go in a bigger thing in Affinity Publisher, then I probably wouldn't. I would create the footer in Affinity Publisher. Then I get to decide what it looks like. And I did have this all set to Avenir. And it's gone back to another font, but I'm not fiddling. Time is pressing, I'm not fiddling, right? But you can decide what font you want in here. You can then preview the document or export it. So let's, fingers crossed it's okay, and let's just export it. So it's having a think about it. I think there was 7 or 8 steps. It wants to put it in iCloud, which I'm not going to let it do. So I will put that on the desktop. In fact, you know what? Will I put it in the... I'll put it in here. There we go. So in there, I'm just going to put... I'm going to call this Folge, so I know which one it is, because I've been exporting this for days. Right, so it's done. It's having a think about it. It's almost done. Preparing the document. It's exporting the images. It's exporting the titles. It's formatting it. And it's going to create a PDF when it's finished with itself. So I'm going to navigate my way to where that finished PDF is. I can see it's just arrived. So awesome, it's arrived. At that point, I don't need to think about that anymore. So go back from the export and back into here and minimize that. So what I've got over here is a PDF. So let's have a look at the PDF in PDF Reader, which it has unhelpfully opened on the other page. Come on, Mother Monitor, where you go? Let's get back on this page. There we go. So that's the pages. That's page 1. Let's open this up and have a look at the thumbnails here. There are all the pages. If it can fit 2 on, it will fit 2 on. There we go. So that's the file that we're working with. Okay, let's close that. we don't want that. And let's move this out of the way. So I'll get a new file in here. Oh, what should we do in here? Embedded. We won't bother with the margins. Let's make it like that. Okay. So in my pages in there, here's my pages. So I'm going to go to Document, Add Pages from File, and then I will go find the file, which is in... Oh, mouse pointer, stop hiding from me. That file there, when it lets me select it. There we go. And open that. This gives me the Add Pages from File dialog. And so we've got all the pages. I'll add them after page 1. Maybe I want page 1. In fact, we could make that after page 2, couldn't we? Yeah. That way we've got room for a table of contents if we want one. If there are any unused text styles, don't bring them in. And OK to that. And it promptly goes away and it brings all of that in there for me to work with. Now, what kind of work would I do with it? Well, I can add stuff. For a start, we've got our headers and footers, haven't we? So I'm not worried about the cover and what's applied to what at the moment. But if I made a master page, not worried about any of that, and I've got my master page, and I do my page number thing at the bottom of it, so we'll make this absolutely huge so we can see it. Let's go in there and put a page number. So insert fields page number. It has put that on the left. We want that in the centre. And we want it so we can see it. So let's make it quite big. Right. That master is not applied to any of these pages yet, but our work starts on page 3 and goes through to page 7. So if I apply a master to it, and then we go have a look at it. Oh, come on. Have you even applied? Have you even tried? Come on, where are we up to? 2. Right, apply master. 3 to 7, replace the existing. Clear the content because we don't got any there. And OK. Don't believe this. I have never seen that fail. Should we just drag and drop it? See if we can get it on that way. Oh, I know what's going on. Good grief, I know what's going on. Right, it's done it. It's done it. But one thing you have to remember with this, which obviously I've just totally forgotten, it is there. It is. But when we look at the layers, we can see that Master A is below this. That doesn't usually matter. But in here, we see that this has got a white background. So what we need to do is drag that up to there, which puts it on the top, which is relevant because in my master pages, what I am more than likely going to be doing is bringing some assets onto it. So in here, I have a whole range of stuff, including a sidebar for Affinity Publisher. So bring that on, get that up there and down there, and go back to the pages. You see it's come through to that page, but it hasn't come through to that page. It's actually behind it. So what you need to do is shove the master on the top, and then you can see everything that comes through, which means that kind of branding would be more difficult to do. Normally, to handle it, instead of creating a PDF from Folge, I create a Word file or a PowerPoint file, and that way I can use masters on it. But I can also do it in Affinity Publisher, and that way I get all of the benefits of, instead of trying to draw lines and stuff in Affinity Publisher, I'm doing it in a dedicated app that's built for it, but then I'm finessing it when I bring it through to Affinity Publisher. What does something that I've actually produced look like in there in Affinity Publisher? This one is a PDF. This was, when it finally loads in, this was the freebie that I put out for how to do rolling edits in Camtasia. So The page, the front page is A4, but these, as you look at them, you probably recognise they look like slides. Yeah, they were. They were created straight out of Folge, and then this added afterwards. And that, if you go look for that video, you'll be able to download that file and have a look at it. Right, okay, Wheezy's done. So, recap, we did loads, didn't we? Traditional text-based tutorials, and then moved on with how to get great screen captures, how to annotate those, multiple step tutorials, then step-by-step, where we had the 9 grid, which was a 3x3, and then growing pro with Folge. Right, we do have some future Affinity Publisher sessions coming up. In fact, we've got a new series. The intent is to run it throughout the whole of August. We'll be announcing it later this week via my VIP list, so feel free to sign up. It's completely free. You will be the first to know what is on the way. Details of that will be coming up shortly. In the meantime, everything that you see on the channel is available at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. We have an All Things Affinity playlist, which is all of the apps, Affinity Publisher and Designer, both for Mac, Windows and iOS. We've then got an dedicated Affinity Publisher playlist with all of those videos on it. You could subscribe. That way you make sure that you don't miss anything at all. And hit the notification bell. We love you if you love us. Have a look at that like button and seriously contemplate hitting it. Now, if you do want first notification, that is how you can get on my list, which is elainegiles.com/VIP. I send out notifications of what's coming up. I also send out notifications of videos that have had timings added, so you can go back and just look at things that you're particularly interested in rather than wade through the entire 2+ hours. Right, what I thought it would be interesting, seeing as though this session was supposed to be running last week. The reason it didn't was we had a national emergency declared. I know there are other countries a lot warmer than ours, but trust me, the UK is good at one thing, that is getting a house hot and then keeping it hot like an oven. Did we make the right call? Oh yes, we did. Tuesday was horrific. Monday was bad. We didn't think Monday could be beaten until it got to Tuesday. That was officially the temperature outside. It reached 102. Inside the office, this is Izzy, our office thermometer. He's a gift from a friend back in the 80s who went on a holiday to Israel, hence Izzy. In the office, it reached 50 or 120. Now, it could have been hotter, but Izzy doesn't go any higher. So if there was any doubt that we made the right decision, I can assure you, we did. I wouldn't have survived, never mind the computer. The good news is that by Friday, it was all returned to normal. It was raining. It was bliss. And what was even better was all the people, the sun lovers. If you want the sun, feel free to go abroad and find it. But don't sit here in your back garden and subject me to it. All the people on Facebook that were like, I hope you're happy now it's raining. I'm like, yes, I am actually, thank you, blissfully happy. Right, let's go into the Q&A. So, I am popping that on. Questions, Mike?
There aren't any that you haven't answered.
Oh, good grief, not a question? Oh, good grief.
Well, Renee asked what Folge cost, so I've sent him to the website.
That's not actually a bad price. I think it's licensed for 2 machines. Johnny mentioned that first, didn't he? And I know Jonathan's bought it, and obviously I've bought it. I just wanted something to replace all the ones that died. And they did die with increasing regularity. If it's something quick, if I've got a client that's like, how do I do X? One thing I could do is make a video. But if it's just something like that, what I do is I make a judgment as to whether it's worth doing right. Should I just produce it to a PDF and send it to them and be done? Or should I think, oh, this is something that other people might be interested in. So, I'll take the time, I'll do it properly. I'll output it to Publisher, I'll tweak it, and then I've got something down the line. So what I do, how much effort I put into it, really depends on what the thing actually is. So I figured with that linked and embedded, loads of people struggle with that. I mean, mine is set by default to be embedded, and you saw tonight it lost something. It lost a link.
Right, there is a question.
Oh, we've got a question. Excellent.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
It's from Maripat. My step tutorials will have a lot of photos, not screenshots. Can I still embed? What resolution settings? Any of your other ideas that would help?
If depending on the size of them, the viewable size, if you're going for print, then there'll be 300 dpi. But there's still no point in putting like a 12 meg file in. So just make it the physical size that you want it multiplied by the 300 dpi, and then they will be absolutely fine. Other than that, no, there's nothing really clever involved with the rest of it. If you're dealing with lots of files, then I've just remembered there was a thing from Renee who wanted to know about Eagle. So I didn't demo that, did I? Don't disappear, Renee. I've written it down now, so it'll happen. I would find some way to manage them like Eagle or Bridge. Bridge is free from Adobe. Eagle is about £38, but it's a lifetime license. Not the lifetime of this version, every version. When they upgraded to 3, I thought, where do I pay? And I realised that you didn't have to. So I took it as an opportunity to buy another licence. Just keep buying it. But Eagle is very, very good. Eagle will let you batch process, search for stuff, tag stuff. That's probably the best way to do it if you've got a lot of screenshots or a lot of photos. That's the way that I would do it. Right. Do we have any more questions with that before I go on to Eagle?
Yeah.
Right, where you go.
Frankie says, I make patterns and tutorials for my patchwork group, but I'm having problems when I try to put fractions in Y text styles.
Right. I was going to look at that, wasn't it? Was it wide text styles you just said?
Y is what
has
been written here.
Right. Well, right. Y in text styles. I will have a look. It could well be, I mean, you saw the problems I had tonight with the mouse. I told you it crashed just before I started. It feels like we need a little bit of an update, even if it's not the version 2, just a bit of an update. So it could just be an issue. You also saw how there was 2 ways to do the coloured dots with the numbers, but depending on the way you chose, it had implications down the line. So it could be something to do with that. I will make sure that I take a look at that and find out. Right. I'm not sure if there's any more questions because Mike's disappeared. But what I'll do is I will show you Eagle when it comes to capture. So let's come out of there. Don't die on me now. Right. Eagle's great for capture in multiple ways. So I'm just closing that down and minimizing that. Right. I have got... Let me get a browser. Let me get a browser. And where should I go in this browser? Oh, how about my own site? That's not a bad idea, is it? Right, let's go to my own site. Right, when it comes to capturing something on the screen, so I'm going to bring that note on that had the links in. So if you haven't got Eagle, I'll post these links in now. Seeing as I've taken the time to do that. And ScreenFloat's just fabulous. Just love ScreenFloat. Right. Let's get those 3 in there and then show you capturing that. Right. So if I wanted to capture this window, obviously I've got the Mac way of doing it, which is I would Command Shift and 4, it would do that. It would put the screenshot on the desktop and it would then disappear because I have Hazel filing it for me. But I can also do that where it goes to Eagle. So I have Eagle here. And I've created a demo library, so there's nothing in it. So Eagle is sat behind me there, there's nothing in it. And I want to take a screenshot of that. So instead of Command Shift and 4, I've just used Control Option Command full stop, which I do believe is the default for Eagle. But you can possibly change it in Eagle. I came across a problem that I couldn't. But it's the same as taking a screen capture on the system, but I'm using a different shortcut key because when I take a screenshot of this, I want it to go straight to Eagle. So if I press the space bar, which means I'm going to take a camera shot, hence the camera, of the whole dialog box, just click it, it says screenshot captured, and it appears behind me in Eagle. So the thing with that is it doesn't shoot off and get put somewhere else, and then I've got to go and find them and organise them. Right, so let's say what I wanted to do is take a few screenshots. So I'm taking a few screenshots here of stuff that I've got working. So that's the loopback pipe for Mike. That's how I turn Mike on and off, as it were, up here. So I'm just running around and taking some screenshots of stuff. So let's drag that on. Do another eagle capture just by dragging that. So, you know, need to edit that menu. And it's automatically populating behind me, which means my life's simpler. So when I finish taking, 50 screenshots, I can come in here and start organising them. It's even tagged it as a screenshot. So if this was my real Eagle library with my 5,000 images in it, I could filter straight away for them being screenshots. I can also add some notes. So if this was, website menu needs updating. Oh, spelling. Right. I can even put notes in there. It even gives me a palette that's in there. I can just literally, if I'm thinking I like that, really like that colour, I just need to click on there and I can copy that colour and then paste it into any app that I'm working with. But mainly this would be for organising them. It would be for having one place that they're captured to that I can then work. And the thing is with Eagle, the library I have stored on Dropbox. So if I have to pick up my laptop and go downstairs, I can carry on working with exactly the same files. Normally when you take screenshots, they're on the machine that you took them on, and that's that. The other thing that Eagle can do when it comes to screenshots, where did I put that browser window? Where have you just disappeared to? You were there. There you are. Right, let's get that back. If I wanted to take a scrolling capture of all of that, because I wanted to mark it up for something, it can be done, but I choose to use Vivaldi rather than Chrome. And Chrome will take a scrolling screenshot with Snagit, but Vivaldi won't. So let's get rid of that. I want a scrolling screenshot of all of that. And I can do that with Option and 4. And you can see at the top it says 12%, 25%, and it's starting to scroll. And that is it taking a screen capture of the entire page. When it's done it, it will put it into Eagle. So it's quite a long page. It'll take its sweet time, but it's done it. It's taken me back to the top. And in Eagle, it will appear eventually. There you go, captured, and in it will come. It's obviously quite tiny, but if I click it, it will open that and I can pan around and I've got a whole capture of the web page. Even better than that is this. So I'll move Eagle to the side and back over here. And instead of Option and 4, I'm going to use Option and 1 this time. And what Option and 1 will do is hand this page over to Eagle. And in it, it will have all of the graphics independently. So if I just wanted to save that one and that one and that one and that one, and my rolling edits one, they've got little ticks in the corner now. And I just hit import and it brings in just those 5 without me having to manually drag them somewhere or capture them or take a screenshot of a screenshot kind of thing. It just puts them in. They are the original sizes as well. They're not the thumbnail. So it's displayed as a thumbnail, but you're getting the original sizes. If you look at that one there, that is an amazing size of 1590 by 1000. So you are getting the original while you're at it. Just to show you how that's actually working, because I'm using shortcut keys, I like a very minimal browser. Very, very minimal. But over here under the jigsaw, there is the Eagle extension, and that's how it's working. There's the batch save. You can capture an area, capture the visible, capture a page. You can disable it on this URL. The other thing you can do in terms of capture is if you did just want the one, so let's say we're down here and you wanted that one, you can grab that, and that little popover that appears, when you drop it, it sends it to Eagle. whichever database is open in Eagle. And again, it's not just the thumbnail you get, it's the full image that you get. So Eagle is fantastic, not just for organising, it's great for capture, be it local capture or via the web capture. So hopefully Renee's enjoyed that.
He's got a follow-up question.
Okay, away you go.
Can you assign a specific folder to gather your captures in?
Yes, you can, and I've actually already done that. So my proper database is called Work in Progress. So there's also an extension, not an extension, a menu item that you can do to get stuff in there. So what I've already done in here is this WIP that's the location of it. So it's the users folder, my folder, Dropbox, application support, Eagle, and I've got a folder that is Eagle Auto Imports. And within that, there is a folder for each database that I auto import into. And the only one I auto import into is the WIP one, the work in progress one. So I create that folder and any item that goes in that folder will get added to the database that's the work in progress thing. So if we look at that here in the preferences, this is where you set that up. It's one of these. Auto import, there we go. So you can see I've pointed it to a folder one level up from the WIP. And I'm monitoring that folder, and anything that gets added in there to a subfolder with the same name as the database, so this one would be demo, would automatically get added to that file. So I find if I'm out and I'm taking pictures or whatever, if I'm out, lockdown and all that, if I'm out, I can send something from my phone, can save it to Dropbox in that folder, and when I come back in, all of those images are in place and I just get started and work with them. It's the automations like that that make the thing viable as far as I'm concerned. These options for the screenshots in here, this is where you choose the quality. So if you do have a Retina display, take those screenshots at 2x and they'll be a better quality. And this is where you set up the shortcuts and the formats as well. Stay away from WebP, nothing can read it. Eagle can read it and that's it. But don't try getting it anywhere else, it just doesn't like it. Okay, so
Maripat wants to know if Eagle works with photos as well.
Eagle works with a whole range of file formats. Let me show you in a browser. Let's get back to Vivaldi. Eagle.cool is where you go for that. Eagle.cool. It is the most amazing app when it comes to organising. It supports native Affinity files, Publisher, Designer and Photo, which I've not found anything else that does. When you scroll down on their homepage, it gives you lots of information about Eagle. But keep going, and these are the file formats. So Bridge supports Photoshop, Illustrator, XD, InDesign, etc., but it doesn't support the Affinity apps. This supports so much, it even supports video and audio, as well as stuff I've never even heard of. I've no idea what Principle is, but it supports it. I love the fact it supports omnigraphal files as well. That's amazing. Most of these type of organising apps support the end raster version, like PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs. But this supports the master files, Sketch, Figma, Photoshop, all of the Adobe suite, all of the Affinity suite, even old files like Corel Draw files that I've got that nothing will read. It reads those. It also supports RAW files, so you can view your RAW files as well. So there isn't many file formats that I haven't seen it work with. When you've got audio and video in there, they'll actually play inside Eagle as well. So you can choose what the player looks like and you can play the video files in there as well. So that's definitely worth the investment. Happy to recommend that completely. Any other questions?
No.
He's having a look.
No.
Oh, Kim's still setting it up. And putting everything into Para. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Right, okay then. We've gone on long enough, haven't you? That was a question, but I think I've answered that one. Right, I'm going to read all your lovely comments because I can see them there. I'm going to read all of those when I've finished. Otherwise, the video is going to be that long, people will collapse at the length of it. But hopefully you've learned something about creating tutorials. And more specifically than that, some of the features like pinning are relevant whatever document you're creating. It just happens that it demonstrates nicely if it's a tutorial. So hopefully you've learnt something and I've enjoyed your little selves. I will be seeing you at some point next week, but the one time during this series of stuff since May that I mentioned a date, we got hit with that hideous weather. So I'm not going to make any promises as to when or what. But if you are on the VIP list, you will find out first what is coming. And what is coming is something that's specific in terms of what I'm intending to make. But again, it's generic in terms of the features that I show you to make the certain specific things can be applied across the board, irrespective of what you're making. So hopefully you'll all be able to join me and I shall look forward to seeing you next week. But for the moment, I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.